After yet another extended layoff, we're back GNCC Racing. I'm Jason Hooper, your host of the Fly Racing Can-Am GNCC Post-Race Show, coming to you from the Powerline Park GNCC in St. Clairsville, Ohio. It's been a few weeks since we went GNCC Racing. We had the long break, came back Unadilla, then another little break so that we could go to the ISDE. And now we're back GNCC Racing, and it's been quite the anticipation building up for this because, we've got two championship battles that are going to they're looking like they're going to come down to the wire. Paul Whibley came into this race with a 13-point lead in the XC1 class. Stuart Baylor had a 10-point lead in the XC2 class, and we're really looking forward to getting racing and just seeing what went down. And let's just jump right into it. Right now the sun is out, which is not indicative of the way the entire day was. It was cold, very cold. Upper 40s, like 46, 48 degrees for the high. A little bit of wind, sprinkling. And we had some really, really hard packed ground, similar conditions to last year. Very slick conditions for sure. So we'll just jump right into the XC1 Pro class. We had Paul Whibley get his 11th straight Motorsport.com whole shot award, which is absolutely insane. But you cannot count that guy out for the whole shots. It used to be the worst starter in the series. Now he's the best. It's crazy. But he had Charlie Mullins and Caleb Russell in tow, and pretty early on in the race, those three guys checked out. And having Whibley and Caleb together, that was kind of the battle we've been looking for. The way it was broken down with 13 points, 3 races left, Caleb really needed to just pretty much win out, and that would secure a championship for him because that would give him 15 points if Paul was to finish second. So that set up the battle that we needed, and then also set up the battle with Caleb and Charlie that Caleb needed. He really needed someone to be in there to be able to be part of that, like a little bit of a buffer between him and Whibley. And it wasn't looking like there was going to be any separation. Those guys were swapping positions. They were checking out, and they were a pretty good distance ahead of Rory Mead, who was in fourth, and Thad Duvall in fifth. And then there was another big gap back to Takeshi Kwikita, Nate Canny, Garrett Edison. Those guys were way back. This course has 3 distinct mud holes that can really separate things, and it seemed like that happened a lot. Some guys are crashing, guys getting stuck. But out front for the good majority of the race, maybe 2.5 hours, 2 hours into the race, it was those same 3 guys. Caleb was in the lead, Charlie was in the lead, Wibbs was in the lead. Near the end of that 2-hour mark, Caleb was out front. Him and Charlie started to put just a little bit of a gap on Whibley, and we saw Paul have a crash. It was a pretty high-speed section coming into a little enduro cross rock section, and it was just slick, and he tucked the front wheel, crashed pretty hard, bent up his bars, bark buster and stuff got in the way, and that ended up being the decisive factor, the decision point there. It was what gave Caleb and Charlie that buffer ahead of Paul. That was basically for the rest of the race, the next 2 or 3 laps. We had a 1-minute gap between those top 2 guys and Whibley, and then Wibbs had another minute over top of Rory Mead and Thad Duvall. Those 2 guys were going back and forth for 4th and 5th. The race to watch ended up being the 2 KTM teammates, and there was a lot of speculation what was going to go on there, if there was going to be some sort of team tactics or anything. And with 2 laps to go, Caleb Russell and Charlie Mullins were going at it. They were, they were dicing in turns, just going at it, racing each other really, really hard, and it was kind of making you think that maybe there wasn't going to be any sort of team tactics involved. We saw Charlie actually end up taking the lead from Caleb. Then, coming in with the white flag, Caleb passed Charlie back just after the finish. Charlie passed Caleb back again, and Caleb was able to make his way around Charlie and ended up holding off the lead. It was very close. You could tell there wasn't a whole lot of aggression in the last few turns, and I'm not 100% sure if that was because of some sort of team tactics, or, you'd be surprised to see 2 teammates try and take each other out, with a few, Charlie didn't try and run it in on Caleb at all. Kind of different from last year's race where we had Paul Whibley try and run it in on Thad Duvall. I'm sure everybody remembers that. They were teammates at the time, and Whibley hit the tree and crashed, and it was crazy. We didn't have any craziness like that. So we had Caleb Russell cruise across the finish line with his teammate right behind him, cutting Paul Whibley's points lead from 13 down to 4. That's huge change there in the points. Whibley came across in 3rd. Thad Duvall made a late push, got around Rory Mead for 4th. Rory finished 5th. So that was how it broke down in the XC1 class. A few things to mention. Obviously, Chris Bach missing, wasn't here. Victim of the economy right now. He lost his ride with Beta and just, financially couldn't put it together to make it down here, which was a shame. He's been having some solid rides, at the Penton and at Unadilla, so it was a shame to miss him. Nate Kenny was out with some problems, I think, with a head pipe on his Honda. Jimmy Jarrett, DNF with a clutch. So, for the whole race, pretty much it was a 3-dog race out there in the front, and we had that second battle between Duvall and Meade and for 4th and 5th, and that was pretty much it. Then the real drama, the real excitement ended up coming in the XC2 Pro Lights class. We had a couple new faces in the class, Aaron Plessinger moving up and Chris Douglas, so that was something interesting to see. The XC2 class has been bigger lately than the XC1 class, and I know a lot of people have been complaining because there's no incentive for the guys to move up because the other guys are too fast. Well, Plessinger made it known that he's a contender in the XC2 class. Pulls the whole shot, his first ever race. It was pretty cool. He had Jason Thomas right there with him, Stuart Baylor, Ryan Eccles, Morgan Moss, all these guys way up front, Brad Bakken, and buried in the pack was Andrew DeLong. Could not get a start to save his life. DeLong was way, way, way back, and while the rest of the field was checking out on him. And then, so the first half of the race, we had Thomas and Baylor pretty much just open up a big gap on everyone else in the field, and it looked like this was going to be the deciding race for them. Those two guys were going to separate themselves in the championship hunt. And with DeLong back in 10th, and every time we saw him, he was crashing. We saw him crash in the mud pit. We saw him crash in the enduro cross rock section over there, and he was just struggling. And I don't know if it was jet lag. We heard he had a big crash on the first lap and maybe rung his bell a little bit and was trying to overcome that. But as the race went on, things got crazy. Stuart Baylor has a massive crash in the mud pit, breaks his front fender off, loses a ton of ground. Jason Thomas ends up cruising into victory. Aaron Plessinger in second, and then the battle for third. We had DeLong makes his way up to third. He finishes third on the podium. We had Scott Grills finish fourth. That was one more place in between fifth place Stuart Baylor, just pushing him even further back in the points, allowing now Jason Thomas to take the XC2 points lead. DeLong was able to make up some points on Baylor while obviously losing some points on Thomas. So it's still not out of reach for Baylor. Obviously, he's super close, and it's still not out of reach for DeLong. It's going to come down to these last two races. If Andrew's able to put together some wins, he could possibly end up winning the championship. It's gonna be pretty intense. So, yeah, it was a crazy race in the XC2 class. Those guys were all shook up, and second through sixth came through within about 30 seconds of each other at the finish line, and it was intense. Congratulations to Aaron Plessinger for that impressive performance. I don't know if anybody's podiumed in XC2 in their debut ride in the class. That was definitely cool. We did an interview with him. Make sure you check out the site later this week so you can find out a little bit more about him. But that was pretty much it. Big shakeups in both classes for the championship. If the 2 points leaders in the classes had won today, they would have established a fairly decent points lead where they would have been able to not have to worry about winning races to finish the season to still win the championship, and that's not the case now. If Caleb Russell wins out, or if Jason Thomas wins out, or Andrew DeLong wins out, we could have different champions in each class than what we thought coming into this race. So, yeah, just getting better. This could be one of the best seasons in recent memory for both titles. It's been a long time since they've both come down to the wire. I don't know if both of them have since we created the XC2 class. So it's going to be a really interesting end of the season. Make sure you stay tuned here to digitaloffroad.com for more updates, and definitely keep checking out the GNCC Racing website. They debuted a live webcast with some video and audio feed. So no better way to keep track of the races with the live timing and scoring in that new live feed. But that's pretty much it. We got a long drive back home to get back to it. So we're going to sign off here, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.